So let me remind you of something that I come back to again and again and again. We never lose. We either win or we learn. And learning is not always comfortable. Welcome to the podcast today, friends. I want to start with something that I really want you to hear and internalize into your heart and your gut, and maybe more than anything else right now. I want you to know that you are not behind. You're not behind. I know it can feel that way. We're over a month into the first quarter. The plan is set. Set. I'm doing air quotes around the word set, maybe even around the word plan. The year is officially underway. Yahoo! Or do you hear a boo in your head when you say that? Because this is usually the moment when that quiet pressure starts creeping in, that quiet panic. Right? You can look at your goals, you can look at your numbers, you can look at everything you said you'd do by now, and there's this little voice whispering in your head that says, I should be farther along. Did you hear me? That voice is saying, I should be farther along. So today, I want us to slow down. I want you to stop pushing, stop grinding, stop hustling for just a few minutes. Instead, I want you to look back a bit, because whether you realize it or not, you have already created momentum. Look at what you've done. I bet you can name at least 2 things you've done. That's all it takes. What are 2 things you've done since the beginning of the year that you're proud of? And as I say, way to go. Pat yourself on the back. As I say in my daily positive brainwashing, that's indeed what I do. My coach gave me that phrase and I just love it. They're affirmations and meditations. And as I say in my daily positive brainwashing, every breath marks a new beginning. So let's start there. Take a deep breath in and let it out. Okay, let's begin again on purpose, all right? You see, this part of the year is not glamorous. January is super hopeful and December is reflective. But this part right now, this is where progress actually gets made and where reality shows up and sometimes punches us in the face is what it feels like, right? Your actions don't perfectly match that plan that you created when you were perhaps more rested or more inspired and full of more optimism and hope. But I want you to know that that does not mean that something's gone wrong. It means you're doing the work. I want you to remember that you are the chief scientist. You're the chief experimenter in your business. You create a hypothesis of what you think will happen. You test it and you watch what happens. So you set a hypothesis, the goal that you're working towards. You test it and you watch what happens and you adjust. And yeah, for sure, sometimes experiments fail and sometimes things don't work out the way you hoped. But the faster we fail, the faster we learn. And the faster we learn, the faster we can course correct. You know that progress isn't a straight line. It is a series of intentional course corrections. So what feels like falling behind is actually becoming skilled. That's what it actually is. I love the example of an airplane, of how if an airplane takes off from San Diego and is going to Chicago, let's say, do you know that it's only pointed towards Chicago? Something like 5% of the time, a minuscule percentage of the time, is it actually pointed directly at its destination. It keeps course correcting. That's what you're doing. And one other little nuance about this that I want you to keep in mind, something else that I've started to say to myself, is that I will be wildly committed to my work and solidly open-handed with the outcome. I have nothing to fear and everything to gain. You guys know I'm a God girl. And so I also will say that I'm committed to honoring God with my work and excellence, doing it excellently. And I'm committed to trusting God with the outcome. You have to hold it open-handedly. I just had this example of, I'm writing all the emails for us now. And so I've written a lot of emails and our business has been better than it's ever been before. We actually have a wait list now. That's never happened before. And it's hard to see that any of those people came directly from my emails. But I was really bummed about it because it takes a lot of time to do all this. But I'm realizing that I'm going to stay in this lane. I started to think I failed, but then I realized that no, I am becoming skilled and I'm committed to honoring God with my work and doing it excellently and committed to trusting Him and holding it with my hands open. Because you see, there's this moment that trips up even really, really smart store owners. You know, that feeling of change is so uncomfy. It is not comfortable. Doing something new. So for me, it's all this writing, right? And the thing is that it's not something that I know how to do. So I'm not comfortable at it. And it involves learning and it includes failing. And that feels bad. And I feel uncertain about a lot of things. And that feels uncomfortable too. And when things feel like that, when things feel heavy, let alone everything else that's going on in the world, right? Our brains look for relief. And that's when we see shiny objects showing up. Bright, shiny objects, a new idea, a new system, a new strategy that promises to fix everything. And sometimes a new idea is the right move. But a lot of times it is just a quick escape hatch from discomfort. Kind of like eating way too many Tate's gluten-free cookies at 1:00 in the morning. I'm not saying that personally happened to me last night. Might have been the night before, but I want you to know that that happens, right? And I want you to be vigilantly aware. I want you to stay vigilantly aware of that temptation to just look for relief. What I realized today is that that discomfort that I was feeling means change is underway. I am changing. You've heard me say before that my ability to handle a new level of expansion will be determined by my ability to navigate a new level of discomfort. So that discomfort is to be expected. So I have to be aware of this cycle, this loop of feeling uncomfortable and then stopping and just starting something new. We all have to be careful of abandoning something meaningful just because it hasn't paid off yet. And when it feels a little bit yucky, instead of thinking, I want out, to think, oh, this is growth happening. And I also realized today that instead of seeing that bright, shiny object, I saw it because I was looking for relief. So instead, I can tell my mind to see where my momentum is growing. That's the reason why I asked you to look for those two things. Here's the undeniable truth. Consistency compounds. It builds and builds and builds upon itself. Imagine that this knowledge that you're building right now from testing and observing and tweaking and adjusting, how it compounds over the course of the year. It starts with the actions you're taking today, even the imperfect ones. In fact, especially the imperfect ones, right? But that plane takes off from San Diego and ends up landing in Chicago, even though it's not headed directly there so often, right? And now I want you to do something that might feel a little uncomfortable. I understand, but I challenge you to do it. I challenge you to give yourself some credit for that late night that you pushed to stay awake to work, for every project or purchase that you were sure would succeed and blow out and didn't. And for every setback that made you quietly wonder if you were actually cut out for this at all. Is retail right for you or not? The fact is that you've made it. You survived all of that. And those hardships, they're not failures. Those emails that I wrote that seemed like they didn't get any response, they were reps pushing me. By reps, I mean not sales reps, but repetitions. You know, like I love to lift, I love to work out. And so you do a rep, you'll do a bicep curl or something. And so each bicep curl pushes me. It breaks my muscle fibers. So those failures aren't failures. They're reps that are breaking my muscle fibers and that are training me to rebuild stronger muscles. And it hurts a little bit. It's not always fun, but you push through it. And what you're doing right now is creating your foundation blocks for your next breakthrough. Brick by brick, bicep curl by bicep curl, you are building a version of yourself that doesn't break under pressure. You know that already. And that's momentum, even when it does not show up clearly on paper or in your bank account yet. So stop for a moment. Let's take another breath together, shall we? Inhale and exhale. I love breath prayers where you breathe in and say a prayer and you breathe out and say a prayer. I'd love for you to do this. You could breathe in, I'm not behind, as you're breathing in. And then you're going to breathe out, I'm becoming. I'm not behind, I'm becoming. Because what if being on track didn't mean hitting every number or milestone perfect? What if it just meant that you're more aware of things than you were last year? Like you've learned a little something. I certainly have about writing. I get it. What if it meant that you're making better decisions, even when they're hard? Can you see that you've done that? What if it meant that you're recovering faster from mistakes, that you're not allowing yourself to sort of just stay stuck in them, right? What if you're staying in the game instead of burning out so much? What if being on track meant that you're staying in an uncomfortable place and looking for wins, not just chocolate chip cookies? You're looking for other wins. That is growth. Momentum isn't loud and it rarely happens overnight, right? It's quiet so often. It's really quiet. Sometimes it looks like staying when you want to quit. Even that is creating forward momentum. It does not feel like it, but it is. And then the beauty is that every single breath you take is proof that you get to begin again. Every single breath is a new beginning. Now listen, before we end, I think it might be obvious by now, but I needed this message too. I started writing this out because a number of clients had felt this way, but I realized that I caught myself beating myself up. Why was I eating all those cookies? I was just quietly questioning if I should be farther along. Why wasn't I farther along? Trying to be strong while also trying to be quietly brave while I was eating Tate's gluten-free cookies at 1 a.m. They're really good. And that's when I realized that this encouragement is not just for you. It is for all of us who are showing up, doing the work, and not making a big fuss about it, not getting pats on the back for it. So go ahead, hashtag pat your own back. Do it. You hear that? I'm patting myself on the back. I want to hear you do it too. Come on. I'm waiting. Pat yourself on the back. Way to go. So let me remind you of something that I come back to again and again and again. We never lose. We either win or we learn. And learning is not always comfortable. But what does it mean? It means you're still in the game. It means you are there. So here's the positive brainwashing I want you to take with you. The affirmation. You can say it with me or just let it land. We'll put it in the show notes for you too in case you want it. I am not behind. I'm not comfy because I'm growing. I am building. Every step counts, even the hard ones. In fact, honestly, especially the hard ones. I don't lose. I win or I learn. I honor how far I've come. I pat myself on the back for that. And I keep going. Take a breath. That breath, a new beginning right there. You can do this. Hey, if this encouraged you, I'd love to know. Please leave me a review or tag me in social media. We're Retail Mavens everywhere. We'll put the information in the show notes. And I want you to know that you are astonishingly fabulous and you are loved. Thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I'm so grateful to you and so proud of you. Bye.